Hear ya.
Look up.
Good morning and welcome to the show. I'm so pleased to be here with Chef Morissa and our sous chef, Trevor Connor. Morissa has a great background for cooking, and she graduated from Johnson and Wales, but it started a lot earlier than that with her dad cooking side by side, and it continued for her as a passion and a very successful profession. So we are so grateful to have you on our team, and please take it away.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
Thanks, Mary.
So I am going to be removing my mask for a portion of the show today. So I'm just going to take this off. Trevor will keep his mask on for now, just so you can see and hear me better. So today we are going to be making some comfort foods for the fall weather. It's getting chilly out there, and these are some things that remind me of comfort and warmth. So we are going to be starting off with a farro salad.
Pharaoh, like Pharaoh from the Egypt times. Pharaoh, how do you spell that?
It's F-A-R-R-O, but I do believe it has some links to Egyptian times in the tombs.
Looks delicious.
So it's a farro salad with sweet potatoes and apples, and we'll get into a little bit more detail what's in there. We also are going to be making a cheesy polenta with beef tenderloin and a mushroom ragout. And then we're going to finish it with a classic old-fashioned cocktail, which Trevor had the pleasure of making me one. And if you tuned into our segment last time, I said I should have started off with this, and I'm a woman of my words. So that's what I'm doing today. So Trevor will make this later on to show you all, but that'll kind of keep things flowing. So we're going to start off with the farro salad, or farro salad, tomato. We're going to cook some items, and then I already have some items already prepared, so it'll go faster. But we're going to start off with a little bit so just imagine we're in your kitchen, and we're going to just medium to small dice of sweet potato. You can also use butternut squash, but I chose sweet potato and apples. They're going to cook differently at different times. Sweet potato is going to cook a lot longer than an apple. So you're just going to add some oil, some salt and pepper, and roast it in the oven. I do have it already prepared in here. So while that's cooking, you're going to start off with some julienne, just some thinly sliced fennel and onion. Fennel is one of my favorites to cook with. It smells delicious. It smells like and tastes like licorice. So we're just going to saute this. I wish, like always, we had smell-o-vision because it's going to start smelling really wonderful in here. Trevor, do you use fennel at all when you cook?
No, but definitely by the smell I'm smelling already, I think will be the next thing that I'll start trying. Sure.
Okay.
Oh, that's good. So let me ask you this real quick, because I understand that you already started the process a little bit earlier. As far as time-wise, what would one kind of judge that it would take to make this?
I'd say approximately 30 minutes.
Okay.
The vegetables in the oven, the sweet potatoes are going to take a little bit longer, probably about 25 to 30 minutes, depending on how big you cut your sweet potatoes. The apples should take maybe 10 to 12 minutes. The apples, when you're baking or cooking the apples, the go-to is a Granny Smith. They hold up very well with cooking. That is what I use today, but you can also use Honeycrisp. That's a very popular apple. It's going to hold up well. There are a few other apples, but they're not very common. So I would stick with the Honeycrisp. It does have that sweet and sour, and it holds up very well. So I added to this some salt and pepper and some garlic. You don't want to add your garlic too early or it will burn. But Trevor, can you smell?
Oh, I'm smelling it. It smells wonderful. I really wish you guys could smell this. I'm already good right here with that. You can put that in the bowl for me. That smells great.
So I'm gonna continue to let this cook, but with the advances of television, I already have some of this prepared. So I'm gonna start assembling. So to this, once this cooks down, you just want it to be translucent. The fennel is gonna cook just like the onion. You're gonna add your barley. Barley. It looks like barley. You're gonna add your farro to it. Your farro is a grain. It's a type of grain that has a nutty flavor to it. It has a crunch to it. It's almost like a brown rice texture. It's very healthy for you. It has great, lots of proteins. And it's just an alternate to rice. It's just a healthier option. It's very similar to quinoa with the health benefits. So that's just what I chose today. Maybe you're not a farro or farro lover, so you can choose quinoa, you can choose rice. If you're on keto, or maybe you're just trying to eliminate the grains, you can also do just a mixture of vegetables. Roasted Brussels sprouts hold up very well for texture purposes, and you can still add all the ingredients that I'm adding today. So Brussels sprouts are just kind of hearty and big and kind of take on whatever flavors. So that's another option. I'm just going to turn this off because I have everything else prepared. So we're going to add the farro to the bowl. And this dish can be served hot or cold, whatever your preference. If you want a cold salad, if you want it to be a hot salad, whatever, it'll go either or. I had dried cherries, which are one of my favorites. You could do just dried cranberries. You can do other dried fruit, apricots, raisins, golden raisins, whatever your preference is. Everything's about preference. I have some chopped cashews that I'm going to add. I actually didn't chop them, so I'm going to chop them up really quickly.
Yeah, noticing if you were able to really see her table and all the different items. I don't know how many people here in the chat have seen Mezza Cafe or Cava. A lot of these healthier restaurants are starting to pop up. That's like a Chipotle for salads. And a lot of the items that I'm seeing here on the table remind me of that, very healthy salads that have a lot of different options. Have you been to Cava at all before? Or?
Yes, and Cava and Panera, they do a nice job with the healthy bowls. So they'll start with a grain at the bottom and put some toppings at the top, or have quinoa, and then kind of top it off with a nice salad. So you're getting that packed of protein. Maybe the protein in the meat is eliminated because a lot of people are doing vegetarian and vegan options, or it could be topped with grilled chicken or grilled beef or fish or whatever it is. It's all about what your preference is. You know, last time we talked about, not having as many guests in your home. So this is really kind of the ode to you to keep things fresh in your household for you, your family, or just, we're learning all about self-care these days. How do I take care of myself? Well, we're eating healthier and we're treating ourselves sometimes less as if we would treat other people. So you want to really take care of yourself and make sure you're eating things that are going to keep you healthy as well. So to this, I did add the fennel and onions, which I previously cooked. I have sweet potatoes and apples. And as you know, I don't measure too much. It's just eyeball. So I hope you can see it's all coming together. It smells very nice. I did add some salt and pepper. This is sherry vinegar. It's going to add a little punch. And then I'm going to finish this off with some grated cheese. You can use pecorino, Parmesan, whatever you want, whatever you like. And then I have some fresh parsley for color. And we did add fennel. And at the end of fennel, when you buy fennel, most people cook with the bulb. The bulb is what you're cooking. That's what looks like the onion. But at the top, you have all of this, which can be used for garnish or just extra added flavor. So I like to just kind of break off all the sprigs and add some extra flavor, licorice. You got all these sweet and Oh, you know, one thing I did add to this that I forgot to mention. Is it to this? No, it's to something else. But you have the sweet from the sweet potatoes, you have the sweet from the apples, and the sour from the apples, because we use the Granny Smith. The farro is going to pick up all the flavors, just like quinoa. Whatever you cook with, it's going to pick up all those fun, yummy flavors. And the fennel has that licorice tone.
Morissa, I have a quick question.
Yes.
Was the farro raw or cooked when you added it to the vegetables?
Oh, it's delicious.
Mm.
It's cooked.
It's cooked.
I started off with, you have to cook it. It's not one of those things you can eat raw. I sauteed the fennel and the onions, and I pretended as if I added the farro. It's gonna cook in here for about 20 minutes uncovered. You're gonna uncover and cook it. You cook it just like rice, but uncovered. It's gonna absorb all the liquid. You can use water, chicken stock, whatever flavor you're trying to maintain. Once the water absorbs, it's done. You're gonna just taste it, make sure it still has a little bit of a crunch, and it's done. You could then cool it down, put it on a flat pan, let it cool down, come down to room temp. You can keep it hot and add everything to it. This is pretty much room temp. I'm gonna let Trevor taste it because I need to see his reaction.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna try to get a little bit of everything.
Thank you. Mm. 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 And this is healthy because it tastes like, oh man, that is great.
It's very healthy. You know, as Trevor showed you, this is our finished product. And whatever, you know, this is basically at room temperature now. So it's not ice cold. You probably want it to get to room temp so all the flavors are coming out. But I'm telling you, this is absolutely delicious. You will all receive the recipe, and I guarantee if you make it, you will love it. So let this be something for Thanksgiving, a starter, or just one of those things that you have weekly in your household. And you can do this with any other flavors. You can make this more Mediterranean, add some artichokes and some feta cheese, sun-dried tomatoes, some oregano. You can do whatever flavors you love. Some lemon. But this just reminds me of warmth and fall, and I think it's delicious. So I hope you enjoy it. I hope you make it. I do want to know for sure if you made it and loved it. I don't think anyone's going to make it and not like it because it's delicious. So let us know what you think. But that is our farro salad. I don't know if anyone has any questions. We can wait to the end, but
We do have a question. We have a couple questions. Can you use the white wine as the liquid to cook the farro?
Can you use white wine?
Can you use the white wine as the liquid to cook the farro?
You can, but it can't be all white wine. Well, it could, but it probably won't be all white wine. You can add some to deglaze. So as you're cooking your onions and your fennel, whenever you're sauteing vegetables or anything, you're searing something off, you add some wine or alcohol to deglaze the pan. You always want to do it off of your stove so you don't have a huge fire. And that's going to get all the little crumbs and crusts that stick to the pan. You can add white wine to that, but then you're going to have to add some chicken stock or vegetable stock or whatever stock you're using to actually cook it.
And then another person was wondering, how long do you roast the apples and sweet potatoes?
So you're going to roast them separately because they're going to cook at different times. The apples are more are going to cook quicker. So I'd say 325, 375 for 10 to 12 minutes. Obviously, you're going to double check if you need to cook it a little bit longer. It should just be, you know, fork tender, a little soft. You know, some people like things a little more soft than others. And the sweet potatoes, you're going to cook for about 25 minutes. You do want to get some color, some char on it. So I'd say keep your temperature a little higher at 375. If you cook them together, your apples might be done. Your sweet potatoes might need 10 more minutes. So I would cook them on separate sheet pans. Okay.
And then if you don't like licorice, what could you use?
If you don't, you could do leeks. You could do leeks with onions, or you could just do leeks alone. They have a great, it's part of the onion family. They have a great flavor as well. I would probably say leeks are a great alternative. Or you could just do onion. Or if you don't like onion, you can just eliminate.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. I'm just gonna get set up a little bit for our next dish. So just give me 1 minute.
No, just to speak a little bit more to how that tasted, you really will tell the difference between the sweetness and what you were saying as far as the bitter, because it's like at first that you tell the sweetness from it, but then the bitter comes on the back end, which is a great balance for those of you that like that sweet and bitter type of food taste, different things like that. Definitely was in that. That in itself could be honestly a whole meal. Some of you will go to places and your whole, like you'll get a big salad. That's the type of salad because it's heavy enough with the farro to really add some weight to your meal, so you don't feel like you're empty. You know, some salads you eat and you say, okay, I still feel like I haven't eaten anything. That type of salad in itself could be a meal as well. So definitely great. And then obviously following it up with what she's about to do with this tenderloin, I probably would knock out sleep after eating the whole meal because it's pretty heavy. It looks great. All right.
Okay, so this is like a 3-part course, 3-part meal in one. So we're going to start with the polenta. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what I would be doing as I'm doing this. So you have a tenderloin. I wanted to sear it for you all, but I didn't want too much smoke and I didn't want the fire alarm going off. So I cooked it ahead of time. I'm going to pull it out for you in a couple minutes. And I've already just kind of cut it to where I want to use it. But when you sear a tenderloin, you don't have to sear a beef tenderloin. But in order to pack as much flavor, it's best to always sear a meat, whether it be a hamburger, a chicken. It's best to always sear it before you bake it. But it depends what you're doing and using it for. If you're doing more of a stewed chicken, there's no need to necessarily sear it. You still sometimes can sear it off. It's always just going to add more flavor. So we seared it ahead of time. It gets a nice brown color. The flavors seal in very nicely. Whenever you sear meat, you want to get it room temperature. You don't want to sit it out for 3 hours, but you do want to get it at room temperature as much as possible and then wipe off all the excess moisture, whether it be blood or just moisture that's going to produce as it's sitting out. That's going to cause it to not steam when you're cooking it, and it's going to give you the best char. You want to use a heavy pan, such as a cast iron skillet, which is going to give you your best results when browning it. So I seared it ahead of time. So we're going to imagine we seared it and the meat is resting. We put it in the oven, we cooked it. You're going to cook it for however you like your meat. So if, you know, a temperature you're looking for me, is between 125 and 135. It's going to be anywhere from rare to medium rare, and depends on the size of the tenderloin. The smaller end of the tenderloin is going to cook a lot quicker than the heavier. So when you're taking the temperature of it, it's best to get a probe that is safe for the oven. You can keep it in there, set it to whatever temperature you want to cook it to, and it's going to beep and it's going to tell you when it's at the accurate temperature, and you pull it out. And it's kind of, you know, idiot proof. If you use that probe, you can obviously use a probe and just take the temperature and insert it. If you have it cooking in the oven for 20 minutes at 425, it's probably going to be at the right temperature as well. But you want to put it in the thickest part of the meat. That's whenever you're cooking a turkey, whatever, thickest part of the meat. Because when you cut it open, you don't want the thinnest part to be cooked, but then have a bloody piece of meat that's not at the right temperature. So that's already, we're going to pretend our meat is seared and cooked off. So the polenta, I went ahead and I did cook that as well, but I'm going to finish it off and tell you what I did. So when you cook polenta, now polenta, some people may not know what polenta is. Polenta is a dish. Cornmeal is the ingredient. So sometimes people may confuse that or not know. So it is cornmeal, but you're cooking it and it becomes a polenta. So you can cook polenta and bake it into, like it looks like a little cake, or you can keep it creamy like grits. Polenta is from yellow corn and grits is from white corn. So that's the big difference. So we're gonna start off the polenta. We're gonna add milk, which I have milk here. You're gonna add your milk and you're gonna add some salt and pepper, and you're gonna probably do it in a saucepan because you're gonna whisk it. And you're gonna probably whisk it and stay nearby or it can burn very easily. And that's it, you're just gonna cook it till the liquid absorbs. You can use water. You're being a little health conscious instead of milk, or if you're dairy-free, a dairy-free substitute. And you're just going to cook it till it becomes, all the liquid is absorbed. If the liquid becomes absorbed and you taste it and it tastes still raw, you're just gonna add a little bit more liquid to it. You just stir it, and then when it's done, it's done. If it thickens up too much on its own while it's cooling down or while you set it aside, you can always go back and add more liquid. So here I have it here. It's kind of this consistency. It's seasoned and it's ready to go. I'm just going to heat it up. So this is just polenta, milk, salt and pepper, a little bit of garlic. And I didn't add cheese to it yet. Once it heats up, you're gonna add a little bit of cheese. This is going to go on the base of your dish. Instead of polenta, we just had a grain. Maybe you don't want something as heavy. You can substitute with like a pureed cauliflower, which is very popular. You could do pureed parsnips, are delicious. Parsnip is it looks just like a carrot, but it's white. You would peel it, chop it up, boil it till it becomes tender, and then just put it in a food processor, just like you would make mashed potatoes, but I prefer it in a food processor. You get it very nice and creamy, and it's pretty much comes out to be the same consistency as like a polenta. So obviously, if you're just a meat and potato type of person, you can do mashed potatoes, you can pick another grain, but the meat alone is heavy. So the polenta, you're not going to put too much on the plate. You just want it to be kind of balanced out with the meat. So this is heating up. I'm just going to add some cheese to it. Cheese is good for any kind of finish.
What kind of cheese are you using, or can you use different kinds?
You can use whatever you want. This is just fresh grated Parmesan. You can use Pecorino. These are like a little salty cheese. So instead of adding extra salt to this, you can finish off with the cheese and then taste it to see if it needs anything else. But you don't want to over salt, because once you add the cheese, it's going to keep adding salt flavor to it. So you just want to be mindful, because you're adding cheese to the end. So let me taste it, Trevor. Make sure it's ready to go, and then you can taste it. Okay, and just remember, this dish is getting the beef, it's getting the mushroom ragu. So you don't want to overly season the base of it, because it's getting all the other toppings that are going to be so flavorful. So this, I'm going to show you.
Oh, that's good.
I do have the plate already prepared, but I'm just going to go ahead and show you how you would plate it up for you, your partner, your guests, your kids. It's your art, so do as you please. So this is your base. Just gonna wipe, I made a little mess. So that's your base. We're gonna pretend everything's ready to go, because obviously that's gonna cool down. So let's say everything's ready to go, or you have a warmer attached to your oven. You'll put the polenta in there so it stays warm. When you're ready to plate this up, you can bring everything out together, because obviously this is gonna get cold. But we're gonna start our mushroom ragu, which is delicious.
And I love mushrooms. When I was, well, not even when I was a kid, up until today. I do mushroom and olive pizza, and I can put mushrooms on top of mushrooms. What kind of mushrooms are you using for this? And is it specific to a certain kind, or any kind, doesn't matter?
So you can use whatever mushrooms you want, ideally. So mushrooms are very versatile. You want to make sure they're a mushroom you like. I know many people who despise mushrooms, but they're hardy. They pick up a lot of flavors. You know, in Asian cooking, they use a lot of mushrooms, but there's a lot of flavors. So just like a tofu. So they pick out whatever flavor you're cooking with it. I went to the grocery store. What I found was oyster mushrooms and baby bella mushrooms. Baby bellas, they're small. They look like cremini, but they're different. They're firmer than like a white button mushroom. So they're gonna hold up well in this. The oyster just adds a different kind of texture. I've already cut these down, but I don't know if you can see, but they're very gilly. Like they look like oysters. So it's just a different texture. You know, some mushrooms are used a lot in Asian cooking, as I mentioned. And, you know, shiitake mushrooms are from China. So they're used a lot in China. But you can use whatever you want. Okay. It doesn't matter. There's mushrooms that are more hardier, like a portobello, that you're going to use. You know, you can use it as a substitute for a burger, which I'm sure you might do sometimes. Marinate it with some balsamic, and it works wonderfully. I can do, if I wasn't having the beef, I can do a play on portobello mushrooms as the beef. So, you know, but I wouldn't do portobello in this because it's too heavy. It's too hearty of a mushroom. So ragout, it's a French style stew. It can be made up of meat, fish, vegetables. And I think a lot of chefs use it because it sounds fancy, maybe even fancier than what it is. But it's a ragout. It's a nice hearty sauce, but it's filled with these mushrooms, which is considered to be the ragout. So we're gonna, this is just regular olive oil. I have onion and parsnips. So you know, parsnips, they add a nice flavor as well. They're a little bitter, but when they're cooked, they get a little sweeter, they get caramelized, they're delicious. So you're just gonna saute this. I do have some sprigs of rosemary. You can take it off, you can just throw it in there. It's gonna saute nicely. So we're gonna pretend that this is cooked through. And we're gonna add to this some white wine. As I mentioned, I know, forgot the mushrooms, the most important, sorry.
Yeah, you can pour the whole thing in there.
Yeah, so we're just gonna cook all this down. Once it's cooked down, we add our white wine and we'll add some cream and a little chicken broth. And you're gonna cook it for maybe 15 minutes. You want all the liquid to absorb. Then you'll add a little bit more heavy, or you'll finish it with heavy cream, I apologize. You'll finish it with heavy cream as the chicken broth gets absorbed and the white wine cooks down. You'll finish it, you'll taste it. I'm just gonna flip these out because I have some already prepared, as I told you I would. So this is exactly what I told you it was going to be. And Trevor, you'll start smelling this in a couple seconds.
So total time, because obviously there's a lot going into this.
Yes.
Total time, what are you looking at for preparing the whole meal from start to finish?
I'm just gonna flip this out. Oh, from start to finish? Probably about an hour and a half. But it depends. If you don't cook on a regular basis, it's gonna take you a little bit longer. You know, I'm very quick in the kitchen. I can prep something that can take the average person triple the time. So it just depends, but I would say an hour and a half, but it could be longer. You know, if you get your tenderloin from a butcher and it's already cleaned, then that's less time. But if you have to clean it yourself, that's gonna add some time that you have to take out for that. But like I said, you want to maximize your time as best as possible. While this is cooking in the oven, you should be preparing the other items, which obviously hold well, and you could cook them in advance, and then you could just heat them up and finish them like I'm doing. So.
No, that's good. I'm not a very patient chef, or I'm not even chef, just in the kitchen whenever I'm cooking. I can't cook when I'm hungry. So, a lot of people, obviously, they feel that they're getting hungry. They'll go to the kitchen to make something. For me, I have to have something that takes no longer than, say, 30 minutes. But if I am cooking something like
Oh
this,
my gosh.
I gotta have at least a half a sandwich, a couple of cookies or something like that, and then it becomes like a work of art.
Trevor,
Oh, tell me. Here we go.
it's so good.
Oh, oh.
It's
Oh,
delicious.
that is excellent.
It's delicious.
Oh, that would be great on some pasta. Oh, that is excellent.
So anything with cream and cheese normally is always good. So I have my tenderloin, as you can hopefully see. This is just a portion of my tenderloin. It is cooked very medium rare-ish, maybe more on the rare side. This is how I like it. Just gonna slice very thinly. I say 3 pieces. You know your audience. They can always get seconds. So you have your polenta. You present it nice and pretty on the plate. You have your tenderloin and this nice, beautiful mushroom ragout that just mushrooms are so delicious. You can buy mushrooms dried, which are really good in stocks and sauces. And it just depends what you're making with it. Soups that packs such an incredible flavor.
Oh, that looks delicious.
I know you might want to eat the meat today.
I know.
Trevor doesn't eat red meat, so.
I was just gonna
his
say, you're
loss.
tempting me today. Looks great.
So another thing is I have some toasted hazelnuts, which I'm just going to just chop up, just add some texture because the polenta is soft. Your meat on the outside has a little crunch from searing it, but this, you know, it's not like you're eating a nice crispy potato. The polenta is soft. So some nice crushed hazelnuts. You can add some extra cheese, some parsley for some flavor. Where did my time go? I had some time. Some fresh thyme. It smells delicious. If you wanted, you know, some people like meat with gravy. I think the sauce for the ragout speaks for itself. I did prepare ahead of time a little bit of sauce, which I took my seared meat out of the pan, deglazed it with some red wine, added some beef stock, and just cooked it down. If you wanted to even, you know, just drizzle, I wouldn't really, you don't need it, but just drizzle some sauce. You can, it's been sitting, so it's just for some extra added flavor, but you don't need it at all. This really speaks for itself. It's delicious. It smells wonderful. If you make these dishes, I really would like to hear back from you, what you think. If you substitute items, great. Let me know what you used. But I hope you enjoy. I think Trevor is up next, who's going to make the drink that I'm sipping on.
No, that looks excellent. Let me ask you this one last thing as far as, because the presentation is beautiful. Do you ever do anything like this at home, say for your husband or your family at all, where you make a presentation like that?
So I'd say not as much as I used to. I have a 4-year-old. Hi, Kesa. I know she's at home watching. But pre-kid, yes. All the time. My husband will tell you all the time. Now, not so much. We do a lot of meal preps. I prep for the week. So it's a lot of grab and goes in our house. It still is nice food, but it's not necessarily prepared like this because a lot of times we're eating on the fly or after she's been put to bed or whenever we can eat. And, you know, but I do say my daughter has a great palate. It's continuing to grow. And I think it's great for kids to taste things, even though maybe they're not, you know, their palate is not defined enough to actually, you know, enjoy it at the moment. But at least she's tasting things and getting a sense of different flavors and textures. But no, not as much. But we do try to still be as fancy because it makes me feel good when I'm doing
I think we'll be hearing and seeing the Morissa and Chef Kesa show pretty soon.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so. She would love it.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you very much, Morissa. I'm sure we have some people in the back that also can't wait to taste that.
I'm going to clear this off for you.
All right. Very good. Excellent. All right, so we're going to also do a drink called the Old Fashioned. I know some of you may be very familiar with an Old Fashioned. And in fact, Morissa, why is it that you chose this drink to go with this meal?
Well, I chose this because when I do cook on the little fancier side for my husband, or even without it, you know, this is something I would cook for him. He would definitely enjoy this. And he likes a good stiff drink, you know,
Okay.
and if it's not, you know, a scotch on the rocks, this is something that he can keep up with. You know, me, I'll sip it very slowly, but this is his kind of drink. It's strong. It'll be relaxing for him, and he'll enjoy it with this meal. So that's why I chose it, because it's the completion of this meal for him. So that's why I picked it.
All right, well, awesome, awesome. Okay, so we have some of the things that we're going to use for today. Again, in fact, I don't know if some of you even know the history as far as why it was even called an Old Fashioned. And what it was I think in 1880, actually, the Chicago Tribune put out a little piece about this. And they just started to call people that didn't, I guess there was a change in the type of drinks at the time. And some people didn't want those type. They wanted to stick with the traditional drinks as far as Old Fashioned, which was like a whiskey, maybe a little sweet as far as like a sugar cube or something, a little bit of sweet vermouth, some bitters. That's pretty much what, you know, a lot of the Old Fashioned drinks were. And so that's kind of where the name came from. So I'm going to start. It won't really take a long time at all. I'm going to put in, you know, some of you may like it on the rocks. Some of you, like Morissa, may not even like the rocks and just want to go ahead and have it straight. So what I'm going to do is I put probably about 1.5 ounces of your bourbon. Today we're using the Jack Daniels here. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in. There we go. And then I'd probably say about 1/2 ounce of the sweet vermouth. I like anything with the name sweet in it. As any of you that have been here previously know that I have a sweet tooth for anything. And then speaking of sweet, I also have some, what you call it, not for sugar, but some simple syrup. Okay, some simple syrup in here. Again, about 1/2 ounce. Some people would put like a sugar cube. You can do that as well. Mixed with a little bit of water. And then just a couple dashes of bitters. Okay, that's good. All right, and kind of let it mix around a little bit, right? And then what you'll also find is like a ring of orange slice that you can garnish the rim of your glass with. And that is your Old Fashioned. All right, very simple, quick, and definitely goes great with this meal. So I guess, Morissa, I want to say actually cheers.
Cheers,
For
Trevor.
another great meal.
Yeah, thank you.
Ooh,
Very
good.
good.
All right.
Thank you, everyone.
We had one last question, Morissa. Carla wanted to know if you ever get tired of cooking when you go home.
Oh. I'd say yes and no. I love cooking. I enjoy it. Sometimes I feel more rushed doing it because I have a million other things I'm balancing in my professional and personal life. So it's, you know, it's not as relaxing, I think, as it used to be, because I have a 4-year-old in the background that's like, play with me. So it's not, you know, where it used to be, but I will always enjoy it. It's a passion of mine. But yeah, so I do, but it's not the same.
All right, well, thank you so much. Everybody wrote in the comment box about how they can't wait to get the recipes. It looks delicious. So we want to say thank you to Morissa and Trevor. You did a wonderful job. And we will see everybody on November 17th for our next one, which is a few weeks away, and that'll be our special take on Thanksgiving dinner. So we look forward to seeing you then, and be safe, everybody, and have a happy Halloween as well. Goodbye.
See you.